So, what is the deal with a retake? Well, if you took your assessment and you feel really good about it and you like how your grade looks now that it's on there, then you don't need to do a retake. A retake is totally optional. It depends on how your grade looks after taking the test and if you're happy with it or not. If you would like to try for a higher score, here's what happens. First, you watch this video. And in this video, see Miss McGowan's flyaways, but also you will see how to solve all the problems in the original test. So you need to get out your piece of paper that you showed all your work on for the original assessment. And I'm going to take you through those questions. You can mark up anything you need to on your original assessment, show yourself how to do it, give yourself help, whatever you need there. And then you're going to try an extra practice to see if you're ready for the retake. You have to score 80% or higher on these extra practices. You can take them as many times as you want. You can ask me all kinds of questions on the practice one. And then when you feel ready from that practice one, then you'll click next and you'll try the retake. And if your retake score is higher than your original, which it always is if you go through all the practice, then it will replace your first score. So right now I'm going to go over the questions in the original test. So pause it if you need to so you can grab your test paper, mark things up. Let's give ourselves feedback on our original assessment. On questions 1 and 2, you were given the squares just as a visual, so you can see. If you wanted to, you could go through and find the area using all that stuff we learned the first week, but actually you didn't have to. It was written right there. So really, these first couple of questions are just testing the idea of this. Do you understand that if you know the area and you're trying to get to the side length, the square root of the area leads to the side length? And if you know the side length and you're trying to get to the area, well, you're going to do the inverse. So if you know the area, you square root it to get the side length. If you know the side length, you square it to get the area. And that's really all this was testing you on. It gives you a picture just so you have a visual reminder, but then it told you the area. So really all you have to do is the square root of 25. And that one is a perfect square. So the square root of 25 is 5. Okay. Now question number 2, again, gave you the square. So you could draw things out if you wanted to, and you could find the area visually if you'd forgotten the mathematics on it. So the visual just gives you more than one option. But if you know the side length, well, I don't know why I wrote it like that. If you know the side length is 29, to get from side length to area, you simply square it. And if this already has a square root and you're squaring, we've learned that those two are inverses of each other. So if the side length is 29, square root of 29, then the area is 29. So really those first couple questions are just testing this idea. Do you understand that square root of area is the side squared is the area, going back and forth, okay? Now for question number 3, I'm gonna take you back to, my face for a second, and then I'm gonna take you to your actual, there we are, Canvas quiz, because this one, really you were selecting in this drop down here. So these questions were all about, is it rational or irrational? Okay, so just a few reminders on this. That bar means repeat. Repeating decimals are rational, and we talked about this a little bit in class and in the videos, but I'll say it again. If it repeats, it can be written in the form A over B. You could put this 45 over 99 and then simplify it. Anything that can be written A over B is called a ratio, and the word ratio is right there in rational number. So anything that repeats or terminates is rational. Square root of 36 is rational. Don't just assume that if you see a square root that it's irrational. Why is it rational? Because 36 is a perfect square. If you see pi, if pi is involved, it's irrational. And if you're in doubt, grab your calculator. I got a pink one right here, and I'm going to type in 2 + 3 pi. I can type it in my calculator just like that. And when I hit equals, look at that, I get this non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. It's definitely irrational. Anything involving pi will always be irrational. Check this out. Square root of 24. Is square root of 24 a perfect square? No, it's not. So if I type it in my calculator, And I can just even type in 7 square root of 24, just like that. Whoa, mirrored always freaks me out. And I'm going to put equals. And look at that, non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. This just shows you a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. There's no pattern in that. It just keeps going. This is what we call terminating. It stops. So I could totally write this as -3 and 125 over 1,000, and then I could simplify it. But the fact is, if it can be written in the form A over B, it is a rational number. So make sure you're really clear on rational versus irrational. All right, question 4. I'm going to keep going here. Irrational, 3/17 because it cannot be written in the form A over B. That option doesn't even make sense. Don't pick the ones that don't make sense. It is written in the form A over B. So don't tell me this one because that doesn't make sense. No, can't be number 1. -6 because it's less than 0. That's not definition of irrational. That's just an integer, which is part of rational numbers. Square root of 13 because it cannot be written as a terminating or repeating decimal. There we go. Irrational is non-terminating, non-repeating. And this one, because it's repeating, no, repeating decimals are rational. So that one doesn't make sense for that either. Okay, question 5. Billy can finish 0.73 math problems every minute. Write this number as a fraction. It's not 0.73, it's actually 0.73 repeating. So you're going to use your rule of 9s and make it 73 over 99 instead of 73 over 100. Question 6, most of you did pretty well on that converting one. Question 6, the length of a fence brace is square root of 109. Estimate the length to the nearest tenth. Well, 109 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator. And I'm going to type it in. Nearest tenth means 1 decimal place. I see 10.4, and then the next number is a 4, and that will not round it up, so I type in 10.4. Type it in your calculator. Most of you, again, did just fine with that one. A 4-year-old is 3 5/6 feet tall. What is the exact height written as a decimal? Remember, you can totally turn that into improper if you want, but here's what I do. I just take the fraction part and I just do the top, the numerator divided by the denominator. And I see this 0.83 repeating. Look at that repeating decimal. So then I just have to add a 3 in front of it. Make sure it repeats, because that one repeats. All right, let's go back to this one. So what if it terminates? This terminates, so it is not going to be the rule of 9s. Don't put it over 999. Don't get yourself confused. That's only for repeating. I don't see a repeating bar. This is going to go over 1,000. But don't pick that one, because this says simplify. Guess what? 505 and 1,000 are both divisible by 5. If they're both divisible by something, then divide it and get it simplified. Don't get that one wrong just because you didn't simplify. Pause, pay attention. This is why I always tell students to write before they click, because if you don't write anything down, you'll probably click the unsimplified one. But those students that actually took the time and wrote down 505 over 1,000, their brain took a little longer to process it, and therefore they went, ooh, I have time to remember. That can be simplified. It really helps. Write before you click. All right, these ones, I'm going to come back to my other file that I can actually write on, because I got a lot of questions on the practice on this, and I just want to make sure we're all clear on what it means when it says above or below. Okay, so these were the next questions. This one, here we go. So this is the next group of questions, 9, 10, and 11, and it talks about the integer directly below or above. This was when, if we were putting it on a number line, and we just had the 2 scale markings. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in my calculator square root of 62. I might need to type it in. If I'm good at guessing, square root of 62 is just a little bit less than square root of 64. So I actually already know that I'm here. If you're not great at guessing, it's okay. You'll have your calculator, but guessing really is a really handy mathematical skill. It's more like approximating. But square root of 62, it's almost 8, which makes sense because it's almost square root of 64. So 7.87, it puts us like right here. But the important thing is, what integer is directly below? Below means to the left. So for this one, directly below is 7. Now, negative 22/5 is the same thing as negative 5, 10, 15, 20, negative 4 2/5. You could also type it in a calculator and get a decimal. 22 divided by 5, you'd see negative 4.4. Be careful with your negatives. So I'm going to go this direction. My pen is slowing way down. Okay, so negative 4 and negative 5. I'm between here, somewhere about right there. So what is directly below? Remember, below means to the left, so negative 5. One more. 3 square root of 17. I'm typing it in my calculator, even though I could estimate square root of 17 is just a little bit more than square root of 16. So it's like 4 point something, and then I'm going to times by 3. So it's 12 point something. And there it is, 12.37. So on my number line here, if I imagine this, if it's 12 point something, sometimes my pen takes longer to think. All right. Above means to the right. So what's directly to the right on the number line? 13. That's a 3. So that's the above and below questions. It really helps if you sketch out a little number line and then you think, okay, above or below, left or right. So draw a number line on your own paper. If you missed some of those and don't want to miss them on the retake, try drawing a number line. Okay, last question. It's way down there. So choose which marking on the number line correctly corresponds with each above. Square root of 9 is exactly 3, so you would have chosen B on this one. 1.5 is labeled as exactly 1.5. It's right there on the number line. Pi plus 1, pi is 3.14. So pi plus 1 is like 4.14. That one is C. Type anything in your calculator that you need to. Square root of 35 is just under square root of 36, which would be 6. So D is the one that is just under 6. All right, now you're going to try another practice that looks just like this. It has 12 questions. It's all formatted the same. They're just different problems, but the exact same type of problems. So try that one. Do it as many times as you need to get 80% or higher, and then you can try the retake.